Welcome back to another episode. Today we have a bit of a different touch to this new episode. This will be my first time interviewing someone, and it's my good friend. He has a lot of opinions, just like me. So really the way we're going to do this is I'm going to definitely have a conversation with him, but I think you hear from me a lot already. So I'm going to try to make sure he gets in as many of his thoughts as he would like. And so that's pretty much the format. So welcome to the podcast.
Hey Joe, thank you for having me.
So I already told everyone you have a lot of opinions. One of the things we get along with really well is the type of government we would like really every country to have. And unfortunately, we're kind of centuries past that time. We'd like to go back to the golden ages, which is a time that unfortunately, the people now look on as the dark ages. So, maybe here we could help convince some of you that is as far from the truth as pretty much anything. And so, like myself, Miguel is a monarchist, and probably something that we should also clarify is a Catholic monarchist. So without the Catholic part, I think we can agree the second part really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'd rather have it's probably not, it probably couldn't exist, but I'd probably rather have a Catholic anarchy than, an atheist monarchy. So yeah, it obviously all depends on the first part. So, I mean, what makes you think a monarchy especially is just really the ideal system we should strive for, and why should everyone adopt it, even if you're not a Catholic, though?
Yeah. So a monarchy basically has a very clear structure and hierarchy. There is this belief of, the government seats or the government spots are taken or occupied by certain people that they should have the skills and the knowledge to perform that office, if we want to call it that way.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at other elements in society, everything has a hierarchy. If you look at huge companies, they have a hierarchy. There is not such a thing as Tim Cook from Apple going to the whole company on a Zoom meeting and then asking, well, guys, what are we going to do next? iPhone 17 or the iPhone 14.7? Like, cast your votes, and whoever gets the most vote, and we go for it.
Yeah, exactly. You could just go to any of these guys, any of these people that think, oh man, democracy, that is like as close to perfection as we have found so far today. And you ask them, hey, do you run a business?
Yeah.
If they say yes, great. You got the perfect question to ask them is, do you ever let your employees make all the final decisions on things?
Right.
No. Are you crazy? They wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Huh. And they work for the company, so like they at least know some of the functions to it. So even then, they'd be better at determining what's best for the company than most citizens in a country now who can't even, they couldn't even tell you like what the system is that they're even under at the moment.
Right. And even the only aspect that you maybe could find on a company or something like that approaches democracy would be at the lower levels, where the decisions are not impactful at the macro level, but maybe a small team of sales is deciding what to do next week or something like that. But you're not talking about the CEO asking everybody else's opinion. And if he does, he really doesn't care. He's just trying to maybe be nice to the company and make you feel that, oh yeah, your opinion matters. It's like, I mean, not really. Um, and then going back to the Catholic aspect of it, the church is a hierarchy. God founded it as a hierarchy. God founded the family, the nuclear family, the only true family, as a hierarchy. God did not come down to earth to ask our opinions how we should be saved. Like Jesus didn't stood on the temple and he said, "Oh well, everybody, we can decide to do your salvation this way or that way. Go to the ballots, cast your votes, and then we will do that." No, he didn't do that.
Yeah, God told Moses, so can you just bring those tablets down, everybody? Let's just figure out all together what the Ten Commandments should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's not people. I don't know. I think there are a perception of people that, but that's tyrannical. That's oppressive.
Right.
It's like, I mean, think about it. As a society, as humans, we are made to live in a society. And for a society to work, we are meant to have a structure. It cannot just be anarchy. It cannot just be
Yeah.
everybody doing whatever the heck they want. And even if in the societies in the West, in Western countries that you would call examples of democracy and freedom, there are things that you cannot do. It's not like you can just, I don't know, go outside and murder somebody, or gun somebody down to death, and it
Right.
should be fine. It's like, oh well, but that's your liberty, that's your freedom. Like, democratically in this town, we decided to murder Jimmy, and it should be fine. No, so there are aspects everywhere that are just simply order and law, and no, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
again,
I
sorry,
really have a problem with one of the things about democracy is that it inverts the true, how do you say, it? Like line of authority with people. So to have the people in charge of that's not the way it is, a democracy. If a democracy worked exactly the way it's supposed to work,
right,
the people control their immediate representative. That representative controls, well, actually, no. The people control everything from bottom to the top.
Yeah.
But who dictates to the people like what is right? That's really the problem. Is you can't tell the masses what is right. There's always going to be disagreement. Things are never going to be agreed on, and for the most part, it's all going to be decided by emotions and what their feelings are and what they want.
Yeah.
But the other way around is that the people are controlled by not controlled, but you know what I mean, like led by their representative. That representative is led by the next one, and then you finally get to the top, which is the king, the monarch. And he can't just go around doing whatever he wants either. Like, that's why we have a Catholic monarchy and not just a secular one where he answers to someone.
Yeah.
And we know who that is.
Right.
And you want to be on good terms.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
So,
and
it's, yeah.
And people might say, well, but to that point, like, how do you avoid a tyrant king? And the answer, I think, it should be, well, in any system, how do you avoid a tyrant or somebody who is abusing the power? Because something that we have to keep in mind with any system is that as human beings, we are flawed and we have original sin in us. And I think a lot of the conversations that we have in the political, what do you call it, political debate or political framework?
Discourse.
Political discourse, yeah. The town square, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Is that we talk about all of these things without taking original sin into account. There are people that look at human nature positively, as in we are good by nature, and that's essentially flawed. But there are people that don't they just don't pay attention to that aspect at all. There is just, okay, there are people that are good, there are people that are bad, we want good people. Okay, that's fine, that's ideal, but we cannot ignore the fact that everybody has original sin, so everybody has the potential to do evil things. So you have to start from the bottom up, and what's the core?
The families. Well, that's where.
Yeah, that's the foundation. That's the foundation. So ideally, you want a society that is healthy, that is geared towards God's values, and they fear God. People fear God, actually, like committing sin, offending God, and that makes them strive towards good, towards doing His will. And then you have the authority of the church, that it would lead the people, well, this is sin, this is not sin, you are doing this wrong, whatever. And then back in the day, for example, kings were afraid of being excommunicated, because they understood what excommunication meant. And I'm forgetting the name of the king. There was one in particular that committed murder against innocent civilians. He just ordered murder, mass murder, and then the Pope excommunicated him and told him, until you do not repent publicly and you do not do reparations, you are not going back to the church. He repented, fortunately, and then he did what the Pope was asking. So that's why I believe that it has to be a Catholic monarchy. And I have been reading a really good book that takes a look into St. Louis IX monarchy, government. Okay. And you can clearly see how basically the king wields the material sword, and then the church wields the spiritual sword, and they are both one team. Right. And they work together.
Well, it's like that, Pope Leo XIII, when he said, church without a state is like a soul without a body, and a state without the church is like a body without a soul. Right. It's just, you need both.
Yeah. And people say, no, separation, state and church, we cannot have, we have to have that. That's a modernist idea. But, back in the day, you have all of these documents, and the population, people, nobles, royalty, everybody, they didn't have this concept of church and state, like secular and religious. That was not a thing. They lived in a society where church and state were a team. They didn't make the distinction. Like the king was a vicar of Christ in a way, as the descendant of King David. And the ideal of the king was the Davidic. Sorry about my accent. I'm afraid I'm going to kill your podcast with my accent and my terrible voice.
Yeah, I know. Already, I could see everybody clicking away.
But basically, the ideal Catholic monarch inherits from David the scepter of kingship given by God, and governs to protect the rights of God on this earth. And then the Pope is the vicar of Christ, the successor of Christ, the head of the church.
Yeah.
And so they both have, they're not competing with each other. Like, people have this idea that the Pope and the king were enemies and they were fighting.
Yeah.
And those things happen when a king or a Pope forgot where their place was and what was their role. Because, again, we go back to human frailty, human human nature, that we're falling, and you're going to have temptations. And if you yield to those temptations, the result is not going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think another thing to mention along that point about fallen human nature is that where do our laws come from? Where are morals? Right. It's got to come from God. But the system that we have now, where we're not, even though we're supposedly a Christian nation, according to a lot of conservatives now, we can't apply any of that to the society. We can't force that on anybody. That's not a free society. So where do they come from?
Right.
Well, we vote on them. So fallen human nature is dictating what's right and wrong.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point, because the problem is that all morality, all virtue comes from God.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Like, if you start saying, if you're atheist and you say, well, I don't believe in God, but I try to do good, it's like, I mean, great for you, but where is your morality coming from? How do you determine what's good or wrong? Then he might say, well, my parents taught me. Okay, who told your parents about it? And then you can start going back, and keep asking his parents and teachers and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, maybe a priest. And you start going back, you necessarily end in God. Because if you don't, then I can say, well, who is your granddad to tell you what's wrong or right?
Right.
Who is this priest to tell you what's wrong or right if it's only the priest? Who is the Pope to tell you what's wrong or right? If you just look at that aspect, if you don't go higher and you say, no, the Pope is saying it because God said it.
Yeah.
And that's when you say, okay, nothing is higher than God. How can you argue against that in terms of, well, if a king says it, it's wrong to murder. Who is this king to tell me what to do? He's not greater than me.
Right.
Who is him? My dad. Who is my dad to tell me what's right and wrong? So then we have what we have nowadays, where everybody can determine, or they believe they can determine, what's wrong and what's right according to their experience, their knowledge. It's like, if you only live with that and you don't go beyond that, there is a cap to that.
Yeah.
Because anybody can just argue, who are you to tell me?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a subjectivity that we're getting more and more of. And that's kind of like a segue to a topic I wanted to talk to you about today as well, is that, I mean, you look at conservatism nowadays. I mean, the audience knows how much I rip into these guys already. I just get more and more disenchanted, I think is the word. You know, I was using the word disenfranchised, and then my wife corrected me. She's like, that doesn't sound right in that context. But I think disenchanted is the right term to use for this. I don't know why. I always use disenfranchised. Maybe I must have heard it from like a conservative podcast. But anyway, yeah, these guys, their principles and morals keep I don't know, inside, like what they truly believe inside of them, but what they preach is that things change.
Yeah.
Apparently, they go from telling you that two dudes can't get married, it's extremely sinful and you need to repent,
right,
to actually, you know, we got a lot of cool people that are gay. Yeah, they're on our side. They're gay conservatives now. Yeah, you know, that's fine. Yeah. Suddenly that changed. Right and wrong just changed. Yeah. You know, the trans issue now, even now there are trans allies on the conservative side. Right. We can get into that. Like, it's just, it's getting just bad. Like, I can't even identify as a conservative anymore. Yeah. Because if somebody asks me, it's pretty simple now, Catholic monarchist. Yeah. But this whole abortion issue has just been so sad to see, because so many of these people are people I thought, yeah, I can get behind them. Right. They're speaking the truth for the very most part. At least we're not going to always agree on everything. But now it's just you guys in a lot, not you guys, but these guys in a lot of way. And I try to hold back from judging anybody, especially individually, but you're worse than liberals. I think a lot of liberals really don't understand these things. They've never been taught the true, like, right and wrong in these situations. And if you're not, I know a lot of these guys too like to say, well, you should be teaching your kids how to think, not what to think. You need to teach them both. Right. You know, you can't just be taught how to think and then let, you know, your 8 and 9-year-old decide what they want to do with their life. Right. And what's right and wrong. You gotta you got to teach them the
Right.
church history or your catechism and whatever else. Totally got lost where I was, but
Topic of abortion and
yeah,
how
so they
things
just
shifted.
they keep shifting and they just keep on changing what is supposedly right or wrong, and now
Right.
you've got Donald Trump telling you, oh, it was what Arizona just did, the Supreme Court, is just terrible. It's terrible. It was just
Too far.
it's too far. That's the right term. And then Carrie Lake saying the same thing. And it's just, and the only reason they're saying these things is because that's the most electable position according to them.
Yeah.
And
It's not because of the truth. It's not because of defending the unborn. It's because if we don't do it, then we might lose a lot of votes. And I could say that I understand that from a certain point of view. Maybe they think, well, if we manage to gain more votes and we get elected, we can do more good. That if we take a quote unquote extremist approach
right.
and then not get elected and the other guy is worse. But I think there should be certain standards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you cannot just preach on, well, I'm going to preach or support whatever is more popular. And here's the thing, you can be thinking about tactically how I want to run my campaign and I need to win. But at the same time, are we running, like, are we, let's say, are you conservative because you truly believe in what you believe, or because you need to gain votes, or because you need to appease or satisfy as many people as you can? And I think there are several topics that are just what they are. And I don't think it's wise to compromise, not because losing votes, but because of what it is. Like you said about how things shifted. I mean, first of all, we have to look back to modernism and this infamous quote of, I don't remember who was the one who said it, but it's one of the things that modernists preach on multiple times, really hard. It's like everything is relative, nothing is absolute, which, I mean, to begin with, that's an absolutism. The statement itself is absolute as they are presenting it, but that's what then culture is using to make decisions. Years ago, homosexuality was seen as shameful and sinful and all of that, but then
now they got a month to celebrate.
Right. But you see how little by little they have been gaining terrain, and you have the pro side, like the pro-homosexual side and all of that, pushing relentlessly throughout the years, getting their people elected, changing the laws and all of that. And then you have the conservatives who are supposed to fight back.
Yeah.
Little by little, well, let's give in a little bit. Oh, that's kind of cruel. Let's give in a little bit more. And they just keep gaining. Keep gaining ground. And you have people saying, let's have the free market of ideas. Let's put the truth out there at the same level as everything else, and you'll see how the truth will always win. Have you not been paying attention to the last 60 years? Because that's what has been happening.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people have been preaching. Let's just put the truth out there and the truth will win by itself. Like, no, you need people defending the truth.
Right.
And we go back to the same point of human
error.
What?
Human error? Or not human.
No, frailty?
Human frailty, that works.
Yeah, human frailty and the original sin that if we don't fight against our tendencies to be subjected by our passion. So all of us have a tendency to an inclination to our passions. Some people are affected more by different things. Like some people are more affected by the sexual appetite. Some other people are more affected by the gluttony, by being lazy and all of that. But there is always something that is dragging us down, something in our bodies, in our minds that is part of our passions that are always there trying to drag us down. That's one of the effects of original sin. Our passions are disorder. So if you don't fight against that, if you don't create discipline against that, you fall. You fall into those sins. So you have to be proactive, building discipline, building resilience against that. It's the same thing with the truth. You cannot just say, like, put a poster outside of your house and you say, there you go, I'm defending the truth. I'm not going to do anything else for the rest of my life. The post is there, the truth is going to win by itself. That's not how it works. It has
Right.
never worked that way.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just, besides the obvious moral issue with this, where they think they could give ground on a moral issue just because they're afraid of what might happen in the future. Like, the ends justify the means, where, it's pretty much the same thing as saying, if I don't kill this person, they might do some damage later.
Right.
It's like, well, if we don't allow some unborn, some babies to be murdered now, we might not be able to save even more later on.
Right.
There's an issue there already, and it's just, and then even beyond that, it's a bad strategic decision anyway. It's like these people just need instant satisfaction. Like, this is what we've got right now. Let's just work with this.
Yeah.
And just shape our political beliefs, whatever, to fit as many people as we can, and then we'll win. Well, win what?
Right.
we don't gain anything out of it. It's just the politicians that make whatever.
Think about it. Look back in history, for example, in the United States. Has any politician or has the conservative movement as a whole actually stood its ground in these moral issues and fought back with everything they got? Have they actually done that? So you're telling me that, well, let's give in because these guys, like, there are a lot of people that believe like them, so in order to not lose, we have to compromise a little bit. Have you tried to actually fight back with all you got? Like, have you actually to do that? It's like, no. Most of, like, you could have maybe a smaller candidate or an individual candidate that will never get elected for a higher position, maybe saying things in a more, like, actually defending the truth and actually standing by it. But you don't have the conservative movement fighting back as a whole. And the left is really good at fighting with all they got for a particular issue. And even you could even say that the left or the liberals, in a way, they are much more united in their goals than the right. Because the conservatives are like, well, everybody can think what they want, freedom of speech, freedom of everything. Then you have a fracture conservative movement that some of them believe that abortion is okay. Some of them believe that abortion till this point is okay. So there is no united position to fight against a monster that is just coming with everything, rolling over everybody. And it's funny that Trump said what he said because, well, funny and depressing.
That's hilarious, yeah.
But it's like, okay, we fought so hard to turn Roe v. Wade. We did it. It's like, great. So let's kick it back to the states, and the states can decide. But then all of a sudden, when Arizona actually uses its right to do it, then all of a sudden it's a problem for Trump and the Arizona representative. What's the name?
Carrie Lake.
Yeah, like all of a sudden it's an issue, and they are criticizing Arizona. It's like, but I thought we were fighting for this. Like,
well, I always just thought the whole leave it to the states issue was just a cop out. For them, so they didn't have to deal with that issue too much. But now that it's affecting them, because it's affecting her Senate election there, and it's affecting Trump because it's a swing state. Now they have to walk it back, and so now suddenly they have to go back to arguing the actual abortion issue and not well, this technicality, this, I think it should be after 12 weeks, or it should be up to the states, and they never actually get into the the actual issue of
Yeah,
abortion.
yeah. To me, I think the principle, if you break it down, is pretty easy. Killing an innocent life or ending an innocent life, an innocent human life, is wrong. Abortion intentionally ends a human life, therefore,
Mm-hmm.
abortion is wrong. And that's it. There is no space
Right.
to compromise there if you actually want to be morally consistent.
Right.
That's where I see a lot of the conservative political personalities always playing this game of, well, depending on what's popular or what's appealing to the masses, then we adjust the strategy. And even if we have to compromise in something that is so absolutely fundamental, we have to do it for the sake of it. It happened with the homosexual stand. It happened with drug stand. Like, it always starts somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes worse and worse and worse, and the conservatives continue to compromise and compromise, and we don't see an improvement. We don't see society coming back to all human life is sacred. There is nothing right about ending any human life. That's where we were
Mm-hmm.
not that long ago. Look at where we are right now, where even the conservatives are saying, well, it depends, you know, if it's rape, if it's this,
Right.
if it's that. Is that okay? Then how long is it going to be for them to continue to compromise? So then we add another thing. When I'm just waiting for them to say, okay, we can wait. If it's under 5 weeks, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they do. Little by little, they compromise. And then the narrative is shifted. And instead of actually standing their ground, fighting for the truth, fighting for the principle, and it comes back to modernism. Our society has forgotten that absolute truth exists.
Right. Yeah, it's like it's in a way they're starting to change the narrative too now. It's not even the idea that, well, if we don't give some ground on this right now, we're not going to win elections. It's now, if you listen to Carrie Lake talking about it now, it's not that anymore. She's parroting the same talking points that the liberals used to say, such as, I mean, not word for word, but she's basically saying safe, legal, and rare. That's what their thing used to be.
Hmm.
And it's just, so you're not, so at least the other way you could say, well, in the long run, we'll be saving more babies' lives if we give up some now, as warped as that is.
Right.
If we give up some of their lives now, we can get into office and then save more after that. It's like, okay, I can see why that's intriguing to some people that would be a little confused. But now it's not that anymore. Now the conservatives are indirectly admitting it's not murder anymore, because if they really believed it was, they wouldn't say, well, economically, it could just be really difficult to raise the baby.
Those were
So
the
I think they
initials.
should be allowed
Yeah.
abortions.
Those were the initial talking points that the pro-abortionists started with. It's
Yeah.
an economical issue,
Mm-hmm.
and it was evolving until the morality of it is being taken out, and it's just, well, it is an inconvenience, so let's just do it. Or no, if you take the pill or do that or you abort, you're not actually killing anybody. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
just a clump of cells.
Yeah.
So
It's a message that, how are you going to convince anyone on the other side when you're telling them,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I can understand why it might be difficult for you in these situations. So yeah, you can have that.
why
But
not?
wait, what? Don't, I thought this was murder.
Right.
Yeah, it is, but but this murder's fine. Like in this circumstance, if you had a tough life, whatever,
Why
if
not?
something happened,
Right.
yeah,
Why not punish in the case of rape? That a lot of liberals like to use that point, but it's really hard for a
mm,
girl to carry the son of a rapist. It's an emotional argument, and it's also an argument that appeals to shame, trying to shame you, like how dare you, like you don't think about the girl. And it's like we have to go back to the principle. You
mm,
know,
yeah,
it's unfortunately what happened to that girl, but why is the baby the one paying for the
right,
crime of another one? Let's get the rapist, castrate him, and even execute him if you want to. Like, fight for that, punish the real criminal. Why the baby? The
right,
baby has not done anything wrong. And I still don't understand the argument of it's just a clump of cells or it's just a fetus. Well, first of all, fetus comes from a Latin fetus, which
mm,
means offspring.
right,
So even the ancients knew what a baby was in
yeah,
the womb. So you're terminating. What happens when you don't intervene with that pregnancy? A baby is born, a human being is born. So how come is all of a sudden okay or good or not a problem when you interrupt the pregnancy early on? If
right,
To me the principle is, if you don't, or part of the principle is, if you do not let if you let the pregnancy go its natural course, you end up with a human being. Like, the human being by necessity has to be already there. Like, we have to talk about, a lot of people call it like the magic moment. And
hmm,
then we go to the conversation, okay, when does the magic moment happen? It has to happen at some point, right? It's not that all of a sudden human being is just, I don't know, how do you determine that? And that's why a lot of people don't really like to have that conversation, or they just say it's just a clump of cells.
yeah, yeah,
Because if you start talking about the proper term, by by definition, you end up, well, but that's a human being, that's a human life that began at some point. And on top of that, science supports the argument that it begins right in the moment of conception. But a lot of people don't want to have those conversations, that argument.
I always find it so rich that there's so many laws that protect like the offspring of animals. Like I'm pretty sure there's a very heavy penalty if you destroy like the eggs from a bald eagle.
Oh yeah,
Like,
there is,
oh,
yeah.
they're unhatched. Should they just be a clump of cells? Oh, okay. No, now it doesn't apply.
You could say, well, it's inconvenient that the nest of the eagle is on my barn,
Yeah, yeah.
so why can I just not get rid of the eggs?
Who knows?
Actually, I think I read that, or somebody mentioned it. There are laws that in certain states, that if you forcefully end a woman's pregnancy, you're committing murder.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, okay, in that regard, we are treating the quote unquote clump of cells as a human being, and whoever ended the pregnancy forcefully, not the mother, the
Right.
criminal, the perpetrator, then he is a criminal, he is charged of murder. But then when the mom decides to do it, that's not. And we have to understand, a lot of the girls, women in this situation, they really don't know. A lot of them are just ignorant. A lot of them have a lot of pressure from family, from society, economical pressure, all of a bunch of circumstances that you could say, I understand why you would feel afraid, you will feel alone, especially if it's a woman that was abandoned by her partner. A pregnancy is something scary to bear by yourself. Like,
Yeah,
I understand that, but that doesn't all of a sudden changes the order of hierarchy of the principle.
yeah.
Like, emotions do not dictate the principle. Like,
Mhm.
we cannot move this conversation to the emotional feel, because then we're going we lose, because it's subjective.
Right.
That there is not, when you're talking about emotions and the field of emotions in this conversation, always, every single time, the experience and pain and emotions of somebody is going to be above the principle. And because we are human and emotions touch us very deeply, a lot of people, even those who are pro-life, might even get a little bit of, I don't know, guilt feeling, or this is a hard topic. Is like, yeah, it is, but it's because we need to go bring back the conversation to the principle
Right.
and
Yeah.
trying to find the solutions to the other things around it to make it possible to that baby to live. That baby has the right to live. If the mother doesn't want the baby, what about making adoption way easier and less complicated? There are thousands of couples that cannot conceive a baby. They would love to have 10. They would love to have a bunch of babies, but they cannot.
Yeah.
Why not making it so easy for them to adopt babies and grow up a loving family, and the person who didn't want the baby, okay, that's their choice. But it's not murdering the baby.
Yeah. That's. I feel like the public discourse over this topic has like kind of just shifted completely away from those principles and what constitutes what is abortion, what is at stake here, and it's gone completely to like completely just hands off approach to a what's the best strategic
Right.
way to approach it anymore, and yeah, it's just I just don't know where the pro life movement is at this point. It's a lot of the spokespeople are just I can't relate to them.
Yeah. Supposedly, the bigger ones that, like Trump was considered a huge pro-lifer, but supposedly the root movement of pro-life people are really, those people are really upset. They feel betrayed. They feel
Yeah.
that they were thrown under the bus, and it's like, yeah, you were. Like,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
it doesn't fully surprise me, honestly. I just looking at how things were going, and with Trump and politicians in general, it's like it's not fully shocking. It is disappointing. It is upsetting, but it's not fully shocking. And I think connecting this to monarchy, like, and the principles when we are talking about truth and the basic principles of the truth, um, there are certain things that are non-negotiable. For example, murdering the innocent. The truth is the truth. That's a horrible thing to do, and there is no justification to murder innocents. And let it be clear that I'm saying innocents because I do believe in death penalty.
Yeah. Oh no, you're very consistent there. Yeah. That's yeah. It's third grade level argument. Some people.
But in a monarchy, ideally, in a Catholic monarchy, when you have these things placed in place, the law is going to protect that innocent, for example, against anything and anybody. There is no compromise of that law. So, different to democracy, for example, like some people say, well, here in America, we tell the politicians how do we want to be ruled. Okay, let's, for the sake of the argument, let's say that's the case. People are in charge. Okay, fine.
Right.
People are in charge. Even if 90% of the people decide all of a sudden, okay, let's murder elderly people, but let's not call it murder. Let's call it euthanasia. But we can do it without the consent of the elderly because the poor things. They are suffering. Some of them don't have families, so let's just end it. Let's just end it for them in a very merciful way. Like no pain, surrounded by lovely nurse staff. Great. That's murder. It doesn't matter if 90% of the country decides all of a sudden, no, it's not. That doesn't change the truth. There's a priest, I forgot the name, but he said, um, the masses do not make the truth. So let's talk about real quick. For example, if a democracy, like you said at the beginning, let's say a democratic Catholic nation. Okay, it's a Catholic nation and is ruled by democracy. Okay, fine. In the order of things, if God allowed that to happen, the people respond to God for that power that was given to them. They do
Right.
not answer for themselves. They do not say, well, we can just do whatever we want as long as the majority is in agreement with that. No, you have a responsibility before God to use that power. And I think that's why, for example, in the United States, I do think as Catholics, traditional Catholics, Catholics in general, it is a duty to vote. Because God allowed the United States to be the way it is.
Yeah.
Like God is in charge, and you are going to be responsible for the way you vote. That's something that God allowed you to have. So in a monarchy that doesn't happen, or ideally in a Catholic monarchy, ideally that wouldn't happen. The laws would be respected, and it doesn't matter if the king says, well, I decide that abortion should be fine. It's like in a society like that, no. Like the principle is clear, the truth is clear, that doesn't change.
And the king would face backlash from everyone.
Yeah.
Like other people in his government and the people, because they were brought up in a Catholic nation, and the majority of them or it's going to be a virtuous population, you know, for Earth.
Yeah.
And so the king decides, you know, if he suddenly decides, oh yeah, who's God? You know, I'm not going to answer to him.
Right.
Oh, how about all these people? Do they look pretty real to you?
Yeah, and people would say, well, we had a lot of tyrants before and kings and bad kings. Well, those are the ones who actually make a lot of noise, but people do not talk about the great kings, and we had many great kings and queens.
Yeah.
For example, in Spain, there was a document called the Book of the Citizen, something like that, and there is one which is essentially like book of rules for society. But there are one of the articles that say if the king goes against what is truth, against what God revealed as truth, the people can get rid of it, or the nobles, the other nobility, can get rid of him, because by the king doing that, he's basically renouncing his own power and his own authority, because he's rebelling against God, who is the source of that authority.
Right.
And that would be my ideal system, where a Catholic monarchy, you have church and state, or church and the king, where the church is what nurtures and guides the people into what the word of God, the rule of God is. By default, like by doing that, you're going to have politicians and nobles, virtuous nobles. And then you have to maintain those who fall in corruption, those who let their passions take over. Those are the ones who you target, and you say, well, no, you either have to get rid of them, or you have to punish them for them to repent and come back. Yeah.
I would just, we're running out of time here, but one last thing I would say is that we've had many Catholic monarchies in the past, and there have been tyrants, but there have been some good ones as well. Like there is a track record of a Catholic monarchy having success.
Yeah.
Governing correctly and keeping a well-ordered society and country or empire, whatever it might be. With a democracy, that's a very new system.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at America now, and how many people would agree, yeah, this is working out great. I mean, you look at the polls, and the vast majority of people that get polled say, yeah, we're heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they might say, well, this is just one instance. Like, we don't have a lot to go off of. Democracy really does work, but just because it's not working right now in America doesn't mean. Well,
That's the same argument the
every other,
communists use.
yeah, well, almost every other country in the world now is a democracy. Which one is going great right now? We have a lot of samples to
Yeah.
work from. And then another excuse could be, well, America really only started going way off the tracks in the last 60 years, whatever, or even less than that, according to some people. Yeah, it was going great before that. We had a well-oiled machine. Just everybody was happy. But what made it that? Was it the system, or was it what was left over from before that, when we did have Catholic countries,
Right.
where people left over from that?
Right.
Everybody had some sort of virtue already instilled in them and had an idea of right and wrong.
Yep.
From that. And it gradually eroded, because there's no objective right or wrong, especially no objective sense of like God's law and everything. And the more and more that we've gone away from that, the more democratic we are, the worse things are. I mean, just look at, the proof is in the pudding now.
Things are not improving.
Now they're getting worse.
Yeah.
And that's really just a logical conclusion.
When you take God
like
out of
this.
the question.
Yeah.
When you take
First
God
and
out of the
foremost.
equation,
Right.
it's just going to go down from there, little by little. It might take a while. It has been taking a while. It's not an immediate change, but you can go back to the same issue. God is not present anywhere, and the true God is not present anywhere. That's another distinction that I think needs to be made. It's not any God. It's not the Hindu God. It's not Allah. Right. It's not whatever other many gods you want to bring into the mix. It's not that, well, if everybody starts believing in their God, we're going to be great. No. we're not going. We're not going to.
Yep. That all goes back to, first and foremost, it has to be Catholic.
Yeah.
And then after that, what's the system best for that? Personally, for myself, and from talking to you for quite a bit, a monarchy is the best used, like the best hierarchical system that puts God at the top, and just everything logically follows from there.
Yeah. I mean, you can say that the Western civilization was built by the Catholic Church, under the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. It started from there, or at least Europe as we know it. And the values that came from it came from that. They just didn't all of a sudden, I don't know, somebody woke up in the morning, a revolutionary, and he thought, okay, this is how Western society is going to run.
Yeah.
It's inherited.
Tradition.
Yeah. And you could even say, well, the United States has been Protestant, and then the United Kingdom before that is like, yeah, but United Kingdom was Catholic before Henry VIII, or even during Henry VIII. Mm. It was after he went nuts. But all of those European countries, they were all Catholic, and they were all following God's will. And that was like the higher end of things for most people in society, aiming towards God. And if people say, well, the Dark Ages, it was so bad, and it's like, dude, an incompetent system, like a system full of incompetence, is not going to build what the Western world built. Mm-hmm. Like that didn't show up magically, and then out of everybody, all of the kings were incompetent, all of the royalty was incompetent, and then all of a sudden we had a great Western civilization and some of the most powerful empires in the world. That doesn't happen by accident and by everybody being incompetent.
Yeah, I know. That's it's Hollywood too. Like everything when they portray the Middle Ages, like everything is dirty, everybody's poor, everybody's miserable, just everything's gray, and just it's propaganda. It's just I'm just, speaking of depressing, I just hate being restricted to a time limit, but you got to go home. But this was a really good episode. Hopefully we can get together another time.
Yeah, I would love
talk
that.
More about stuff, but I hope. Yeah, I think we had a good time. I hope anyone listening Really, really enjoyed this. We probably a little bit discombobulated at times. Maybe it'd be better to
Have an outline.
have an outline at least. But I think this is a good episode. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Miguel.
You're
That
welcome.
was really enjoyable.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully
Yes.
we can do it soon.
Yeah. Yes, long live the king, right?
Yep.
All right. All right. See you, everybody. God bless.